Podcasting from Astrolab Studios, this is Continuum Drag, a weekly podcast where we revisit sci-fi, fantasy, and just plain weird shows that have faded from the collective consciousness and didn't quite make the impact that they intended. This week, Almost Human, episodes 11 and 12.
I hear you're bringing in Caston's mom?
Yeah. She took the Bennett's to court last year and lost. A lot of people were upset about the acquittal. She was especially so, made threatening remarks. Stell's gonna question her.
Does she have the skill to hack into a system like this?
Doubt it. But due diligence, she could have paid somebody.
Yeah. Look, the reality is it could have been any nut job who's fixated on the case and wanted retribution.
I know. That's why it's so hard to know where to start.
Let's start with the eyewitness. Let's ask the house.
Welcome to Continuum Drag, the podcast coming to you from the other side of the wall. I'm Luke, here with my co-host Jordan. What's real, Jordan?
I don't know how many podcasts we've done at this point, but literally today I was sitting and I thought, oh no, Luke's going to ask me what's real. I got to have something to say. And then I got distracted. So I don't know what's real again, once again. But it's only for the 40-something time. I don't know what's real.
One of these days you'll know what's real, Jordan.
Mm-hmm. I'm sorry. I did think about it, but I'm like an easily distracted creature. So something happened and I went, oh, what's that noise? And then I forgot about it.
Well, I've got something that's real for you.
Oh, what is real?
One of our listeners on Twitter, at SubtleKnife00, she tweeted at us because she listened to your reading of that fan fiction from Almost Human. Mm-hmm. And I guess before we picked that one, you were reading off titles for potential stories you're going to read. And one of them was for a story. I don't remember the exact title, but it referred to Jorian.
I do know what the title was. The title was Jots of Jorian, Ficklets and Interludes. Remember? Yeah, Ficklets?
Oh, yeah, Ficklets and Interludes.
Yeah.
SubtleKnife00, she helpfully pointed out, or as she put it, she screamed at her phone when she heard us talking about it that we couldn't figure out what that meant. Because I think I asked, who's Jorian? She said, Jorian is John plus Dorian.
That's embarrassing for us that we didn't figure that out. Because it's clear, you know what it is? It's one of those, like celebrity couple names.
Well, as soon as she said it, I'm like, of course that's what it meant. And you know what? I kind of regret now that we didn't listen to it. Or I would have listened, you would have read, but...
To Jots of Jorian, Ficklets, and Interludes, there's always, another time we could really read that, whatever it was, 500-word story about, I don't know, the two of them doing it.
No, there's going to be Jots and Jigaloos.
Oh, you know what's funny? While you're talking, I pulled up the story, and let me just tell you this. Let me just read you the very last line of the story.
Oh, please.
Okay, here's the very last line. Yes, said Dorian. Hot and creamy at the same time.
I guess that's for you, SubtleKnife00.
That's all you need right there.
Oh my god, that's
disgusting.
Quite the last line.
Anyways, that's a teaser for another time.
Yeah, another time to not download that episode.
Well, thank you anyways for pointing that out. We should have figured that out, but I'm glad someone pointed it out. Now we should just refer to them in this podcast as Jorian. It's much easier.
Jorian? Oh, that's true. They're always together.
Yeah, Jorian. Done. Let's do that.
There's only this episode and one more after that, so we've got 2 episodes to call him Jorian.
All right, let's do it.
Can you believe this is our penultimate episode?
Well, I'll get into it, but one of these episodes I really disliked, so I'm happy that we're coming to the end.
Okay. Well, Jordan, before we get started, do you have something for us?
I do. I have a new segment that I came up with, so we'll see how it goes, and if it doesn't work, we'll just never do it again. I haven't figured out what to call it yet, but I'll describe it and then we'll figure. Well, here's what I wrote. What I called it was Who Wore It Best? But that's not what it's going to be called, but that's just for me. So basically what it is I have a bunch of flash questions, and this is comparing Almost Human and Tech War to see which of them is the actual supreme science fiction TV show, because they're so close. And so what I'm going to do is read you 2 options, and you have to quickly choose one of those 2 options. I'll add up the scores, and we'll see which is the better show, Almost Human or Tech War. This couldn't be more scientific.
Great.
Does that make sense?
It's like a psychological test or something.
And that's exactly, yeah. I called it Who Wore It Best, but it could be, what do you call that thing where it's the Rorschach test? So, do you want to try it?
Let's do it.
Round 1. John Kennicks or Jake Cardigan?
Jake Cardigan.
Filming location, Vancouver or Toronto?
Toronto.
Digital Post-it Notes or Super Music Machine?
Super Music Machine.
Albanian Sex Bot Club or Fantasy Town?
Fantasy Town.
Flash Mask, Morph Mask.
Morph Mask.
Dorian, Lieutenant Winger.
Dorian.
The Cube, The Freezer.
The Cube.
We never saw The Cube, did we?
Not yet.
Memory Recollection Machine, Therapy Machine.
Memory Recollection Machine.
Yeah, it's a tongue twister. New Tokyo, Yeltsingrad.
New Tokyo.
Valerie Stahl, Sam Houston.
Sam Houston.
Bitcoin, Credits.
Credits.
Hacker, Cyberpunk.
Hacker.
Coffee, Soycaf.
Soycap.
Sandra Maldonado, Walter H. Bascom.
Bascom.
Synthetic Soul, CRU.
CRU.
Yeah, remember he couldn't find it because he only had like 8 hours of power in that one episode?
I do remember. Who could forget?
Who could forget? Cop melting in a box versus Tech Lord melting in a box.
Oh, Tech Lord melting in a box.
DNA bomb, feedback bomb.
DNA bomb.
The Wall, weather control.
The Wall.
Rudy Lom, Nika.
Rudy Lom.
Benzopropene, Tech.
Tech.
All right. So that was it. Now we're going to see which is the show that is actually a better show. Again, based on a scientific method of you picking one. So we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And we have it. Tech War is the better show with a score of 12-8.
12-8. I mean, good showing, Almost Human.
Do you think that's accurate? Do you think Tech War is actually a better show than Almost Human?
Well, I'll be interested to see what these last few episodes, as they sort of round out the series, or round out the series. There's only the one season, to see maybe what my feelings are, because I do think there's maybe a chance that Tech War is something I prefer, but I'm not sure if that's actually true or not. I think I need to think about that.
I think Almost Human is quite definitely a better television show. However, I can't believe I'm going to say this. Some of the the world building and technology is better in Tech War.
It definitely isn't a clear winner. I'll say that.
But I can't believe you chose Jake Cardigan.
I think I just have nostalgia for him.
Yeah, I know. I did too when I was going through this. I was like, oh, remember Fantasy Town? That place was hilarious.
The good times.
Yeah. I knew you were gonna pick Super Music Machine too.
How could I not? It's got a great name.
Yeah, it is. The SMM.
Okay. Shall I get us into this week's episodes?
And I should say, aired as episodes 11 and 12.
Here is the IMDb summary for episode 11, Disrupt. A deadly crime from the future occurs when a smart house goes terribly bad and turns on its occupants. Detective Kenix and Dorian lead the investigation that forces them to interface with a house that is represented by a mysterious hologram character. That was courtesy of Anonymous.
I know it doesn't really turn out the same way, but this sounds like the basic plot to that Almost Human episode, doesn't it? The one where they weren't sure if the Tech Lord was a hologram or not.
Oh.
It's not really the same, but the sort of synopsis, the way it was written, makes you think it's going to be the same kind of episode.
You said this sounds like that Almost Human episode.
Oh,
what
sorry.
are you talking about?
It sounds like that Tech War episode. You know what? I've got them all mixed up because they're the exact same show.
It is funny because that synopsis is not really very accurate to the episode. I mean, it is, but it really sets it up in a very different way than the actual episode. It makes it sound like a very different episode.
Right. That was my point that I very put across in a very muddled fashion.
All right. Now here's a question for you. Do you want to start with the Dorian subplot or end with the Dorian subplot?
Which was his subplot in this one?
There's a whole bunch of just like minor stuff that is this overarching season thing that they.
Oh yeah, let's start with that and get it out of the way. That's how much I liked it.
I can see you're excited.
Yeah, let me just say, one of these episodes I thought was all right. This was not the episode.
I can already tell.
Yeah, and I don't know why, and it's gonna be hard for me to explain why I disliked it so much, but I don't like this episode. So that's my disclaimer as we start before I really get all grumpy all over it.
Well, I'll be really brief then about this sort of subplot with Dorian. It seems to be setting up something that'll be like maybe dealt with in the final episodes or probably in a new season kind of thing that obviously never happens. But Dorian's moved in with Rudy. We kind of see that Rudy's being a bit of a weirdo while he sleeps, sort of interfacing with his brain and watching these strange videos that seem to be inside of Dorian. Essentially what's happened seems like someone has implanted Dorian with childhood memories from like a human being. And it seems to have happened even before Dorian was like decommissioned, before these DRN units were taken off the force.
This does seem like a classic Android plotline, doesn't it?
Well, it's funny because throughout the episode, he'll keep having like flashes to this childhood memory that isn't his, and it is really kind of a bookend to Kennick's old flashes. Like that's how the series started, is with Kennick having these memory flashes too.
It was like the people, behind the scenes in the show were like, hey, these flashbacks are Kennick's. It's not really going anywhere. Let's just stop that. And then they're like, it'd be a great idea. Flashbacks for Dorian. It's like, oh, I thought we got rid of this plot line. But anyway, yeah, it's like, oh, there's a mystery of his memories. Yeah.
Well, Rudy basically figures out there's some sort of insertion point, and someone has inserted these memories into Dorian. It's unclear why, and he deletes them and closes the insertion point. He tells Kennick, but they both kind of agree to sort of lie to Dorian about what these memories are. Rudy kind of makes something up about how he's just like taking a bunch of external inputs, and it's sort of like a dream or something is kind of coalescing into an idea in his brain. So they're not real memories, but I think you could say that he's suspicious of that, Dorian. Mm-hmm. And there's also a little like minor reveal in these interactions where Rudy sort of talks about how when Dorian was decommissioned, he used to activate him. They used to hang out in his like little laboratory, and they were kind of friends before.
But then for whatever reason, when he got decommissioned, he erased all the memories.
Yeah, when he got recommissioned, I think he was worried that he'd get in trouble, so they deleted the memories. But I guess Dorian asks him to put those memories back. So I'm curious to see if we, in the next episodes, or I guess in the final episode maybe, see a friendship that we haven't seen before between the two of them.
I'm not sure how it's going to pan out. They kind of played it at first like, set up that like, Rudy's actually a bad guy and he's doing all these bad things, but I don't think that's probably what it's going to be.
No, I think they wanted that a little bit, but they got rid of it, or they tamped it down by the end. It did seem like he was just trying to help an old friend who we haven't at this point realized what good friends they are or something.
Right.
Because of these deleted memories.
And the memory, we should say, it keeps showing the same thing. It's like, it's a kid taking like a train, and am I wrong? Is he taking the train and rolling it over like a pregnant woman's stomach?
I thought it was a kid in a hospital bed with an IV in his arm who was like running it along his like stomach or something.
You know what I like? That both of us, we have differing views of what the image was, and they showed it like, I don't know, 45 times. I'm going to guess that you're more accurate than me because, again, I already had been irritated at this point, so I was just like, another flashback, slag off, and I threw a bottle at the screen,
I have had mutual friends ask me whether you're even watching these episodes due to your level of detail.
Wait, is it getting worse? You know what it is? It's I blame it on when I'm writing stuff down, stuff will happen, and I go, I'll figure it out later.
That was my explanation to the person as well.
I'm going to find out who this person is off the air.
I'll never reveal it.
Yeah, you will. You'll tell me.
All right. Well, let's get into it then. The crime of the week this week, as implied in that summary, is there's a killer smart house. About a year before the episode happens, the smart house killed this kid named Aaron who was jumped over the fence and was crossing the backyard. And now a year later, kind of on the anniversary of his death, the homeowners who live there have been getting death threats. And their holographic butler, Sam, gets hacked.
And let me make a note. People love doing murders on the anniversary of other murders. Don't you find that?
Oh, that's when I do all my murders.
Yeah, it just makes things much more poignant.
If you don't do it on the anniversary, no one knows it's special.
It's also a great way to make sure you get caught. But people, they just keep doing it. They can't stop. The high you get from the synergy of the dates, it's almost as good as the murder.
Almost as good as the murder.
Exactly. Sorry, I digress. You were saying.
So, how does the house kill the new homeowners once it's been hacked?
Well, first you see that there's what was the name of the guy? The Sam. Sam is the robot, and he's like a digital projection of a butler. And I knew he was trouble right away. He's got one of those little faces. You're like, oh, he's gonna be trouble. The husband. Here's what I wrote: husband loves stocks, wife loves swimming. So while the guy's watching like the stock exchange and the news on his TV, the wife goes swimming in this very fancy pool, and then suddenly the pool has like a glass cover, I guess, to cover it when you're not using it. And while she's swimming, the glass cover goes over top, and then she's now stuck under the water. I don't know why there's not a little air spot between the water and the glass, but it doesn't matter. She dies, and the guy gets locked out. So he has to watch his wife die. Does he get shot too? Is that what happens?
Yeah, well, This is what people are talking about.
Yeah, I know. I'm sorry. Well, it's my memory. I can't remember. I remember that she died under the water.
While she's drowning, he smashes through a window to get at her because all the doors lock.
Oh, that's right.
And when he goes out there to smash the lid of the pool, the backyard comes equipped. I guess this is how that Aaron kid died. Is it becomes equipped with some pretty like heavy duty turrets.
Yeah, and he gets shot, and he's like laying on the glass, and
Yeah, he bleeds out. I mean, is crime in this world that like to have automated turrets guarding your home? Crime must be pretty bad in this world.
Well, remember they told us at the beginning it went up 400%?
Yeah, that's true. And later in this thing, they'll talk about how people need these home security devices because I guess in the last year, ransom kidnappings have gone up 10%. So I guess this is a very unsafe world.
Mm-hmm. Although every time we see the streets, like when they go out, it looks like a very just clean, modern city.
Yeah, it's a bit of a disconnect, but maybe it is, I think, because we are just only seeing the nice parts of town, not over the wall.
Yeah. I don't know if this is a good place to put this, but there is another minor little subplot that runs through this episode, and it is a constant joking about Paul, who's not in the episode.
Yes, Detective Paul.
I hated it so much.
It is not a great running gag, although I will say in the end, I didn't hate it as much as I thought I was going to.
So basically what we have is, for whatever reason, because it's almost human, they have to have a kind of gross joke. But in this episode, the gross joke just keeps going and going. And what it basically is the actor who, for whatever reason, the character Paul is not in this episode, and they have to keep calling attention to it as if he's been a major character and we would, as a viewer, would care that he's not there. But everyone keeps being like, where's Paul? And they keep asking John, and John keeps giving excuses, like kind of gross things. Like once he makes a joke about how he had a problem with a penis piercing, and then later he says that he has, I don't know what he says, he has like gonorrhea or something like that, and he just keeps like extending the reason why Paul is gone, and so it becomes like this hilarious subplot where people think he's got some sort of like medical issue that has to do with his genitals, and that's the weird like C plot.
Yeah, I mean that keeps coming up, and anytime anyone asks where Detective Paul is, John makes up a new reason he's gone, like hemorrhoids, or he's getting a surgery on his butt, or whatever. Oh, here's one thing I will say, which, whether it was intentional or I'm just reading into it, this keeps happening. Essentially, Kenix is just constantly starting these rumors about him. At the very end of the episode, one of the police drops by Captain Maldonado's office to like ask about Detective Paul, and she says, oh, he's on vacation with his mom. He took his mom to Mexico. So the big reveal being Kenix is just a jerk who was just making stuff up. But that cop that shows up at the end, he's gotten together with his friends, and they've started a collection because they're very worried about Detective Paul's health, and they wanted to help him when he gets out of surgery. So they've sort of all pooled some money together to kind of like give him something. I think Kenix is the only jerk. I think people like Paul. Like, it was really sweet. They were really worried about him, even though it was like kind of an embarrassing surgery. They were like, it seemed like everyone around him was legitimately concerned about his health, except for Kenix.
I think you're right, but I also think you're giving too much credit to the show. I don't think they're nearly that subtle enough that they were creating this little funny running gag to make the viewer realize, oh, by the way, the guy that you're supposed to root for, he's actually the real jerk here. I think you're giving it too much.
I guess so.
I think they just thought it was funny, and it's like, isn't he a funny guy? He just makes jokes about people and their genitals. The reason it bothered me was because it's not funny. If it was funny, it'd be like, all right, but it wasn't funny. And it fell flat every time, and they did it, by my count, 8,000 times in this episode.
I don't know. I kind of wondered if, because everyone's reaction to it was like kind of the opposite, if someone was told, like, you got to write these jokes in, but then that person just wrote them in as just like, I'm just going to have everyone else react like a normal human being.
Yeah, maybe. Anyways, this has gone longer than it needs to, but it annoyed me is my point after 30-minute discussion of it.
Fair enough. I mean, it did run the entire course of the episode.
Yeah. Anyways, well, those two plot lines are out, so now we can actually focus on like the actual plot of the episode.
We'll get back to this murder house, I guess. Obviously, the owners are dead. It's on this big anniversary, so they call the cops out, and Kenix and Dorian interview this holographic butler, Sam. he sort of lets them know that he was hacked and put on manual, and that's why he killed them. And they head off to the company that created this robot or this home security system. Did you catch the name of the company?
I did. I wrote it down somewhere. Centurion Security, right?
Centurion, just like Galactica.
Yeah, how do you like that? And look at my detailed notes.
How was it spelt, though?
Oh, do they not spell it the normal way with a C?
No, it was spelt like synthetic.
Oh, I didn't notice that. So there you go.
Haha, I got you again.
Yeah, I'm a real rube.
Anyway, they go to interview the CEO and the corporate lawyer there, and they sort of reveal that their company's been sort of menaced and hacked with like denial of service attacks by a group of hacktivists named Disrupt, which is a bit of an anonymous stand-in. You know Anonymous, right?
Yep.
The hacktivist group?
Yeah, they wear the what's his face mask.
Guy Fawkes?
Guy Fawkes, that's it. Yeah.
In fact, they even have their own like kind of similar video messages they'll give throughout the show where they're like, "We are Disrupt and we are the people," or et cetera, et cetera. Very, very much of the time, like they're trying to like really rip this from the headlines and move it into Almost Human.
Although they have their look is actually very similar to those. Remember the masks in one of the earlier episodes where the person is entirely like blanked out? They're all white. That's what they look like on their messages. Like you just have a white silhouette of the person.
Yeah, they sort of just blank out the person as opposed to putting a mask on them. Sort of after this interview, they're kind of like, well, could Disrupt have done it? And at that exact kind of moment where Dorian and John are driving, discussing like how they're going to look into this group, the entire city blacks out and all the like electronic billboards light up with a big picture of Aaron that says Justice for Aaron. And they kind of have to like figure out who among this group Disrupt, this anonymous group of hackers, could have pulled this off.
Mm-hmm. I was going to say, is this when we find out that Rudy used to be a hacker? That's their sort of into this hacker world?
Yeah, absolutely. They kind of figure out the hacker's name who did it. His name's Crispin X.
Yeah, I know. I don't know why that was funny to me. It was the X. It was adding the X to the end. Like remember in the 90s when Bush, for whatever reason, there was a Canadian Bush band, so when they played in Canada, they had to be known as Bush X. That's what it reminded me of.
Classic way of differentiating yourself.
Yeah, exactly.
I believe, didn't you briefly go by Chemo Kitten X?
I did, yeah. There was another kid in another school, and it was just a whole thing. Is that gonna stay in that other episode? Are people gonna understand that reference?
He sent you an infringement notice.
Yeah, he's like, excuse me, I clearly have the date where they named me Chemo Kid. It was November 9th.
Yeah, but to your point, they go visit Rudy because he used to be a hacker.
Yeah, what was Rudy's handle?
Aphid.
That's right. Well, and because he says it's little but destructive.
Oh, pretty good.
Yeah. I'm assuming he said that as a setup for someone to make fun of his penis because that's all they do to Rudy. And in this episode, it's nonstop again about, he loves sex bots and he's a pervert and blah blah blah.
We'll get into that more every episode.
Yeah. Well, it is every episode.
But yeah, they go see him. He knows of Crispin X, and he kind of knows after this guy like makes a hack, he likes to have a huge party to celebrate, and it's like Rudy describes it as like a real bacchanal kind of thing.
Was that weird? That every time they have a big hack, they have a party? I thought that was weird.
It did seem like not a great way to not get caught.
Yeah, right?
Just really draw attention to yourself.
Yeah, anyway, but that's what they do. That's what they do in the future.
One thing I thought was funny is Rudy knows who Crispin X is because he remembers him from his days as a hacker. And Crispin X will remember Rudy by his call sign Aphid. There is easily a 15-year age difference between them.
Right.
There's no way they're contemporaries.
Well, yeah, I guess that's true. Well, you know what? It's the future. Maybe kids they're hacking at 5 years old,
You're right. I take it back.
There you go. But the more important thing, Luke, is that they're going to go undercover, which means time for wigs. And I was a little disappointed because, one, I thought this was going to be an episode where there was going to be a huge amount of undercover, like lame undercover stuff, and they'd both be wearing wigs, but only what's her face, Detective Stahl wears a wig.
Yeah, they're going to go to this party. To do that, Rudy's just like, they're going to know you're cops. You're going to have to go undercover. A, why not just send Rudy? He loves going undercover.
Well, because I guess he's probably never going to go undercover again because the last time.
But B, he's like, you better put on a good disguise. And we cut and we see what they're wearing. And Detective Stahl's wearing a blue wig.
And John's just wearing a long coat. That's his disguise.
He's got some eye makeup on.
Oh, did he? I couldn't even tell.
He's got a little eye makeup on. I was also very disappointed because that's a great episode of Tech War where they go undercover, and doesn't he get a mohawk?
He got like a
face tattoo.
Yeah, he got a face tattoo. He had like Mike Tyson's face tattoo, and then he had I think it was like a red mullet wig. I know this. What would have been great is if these two characters had dressed up exactly as the two in Tech War did. I know they don't care about the connection, but I would have really loved that.
Well, it's very funny because they end up going to this party, and no one's really off put to see them there. But at some point, they talk to one of these hackers who's hanging around, and the hacker's just like, he's like, "Are you guys cops?" And they're like, "Do we look like cops?" He's like, "Yeah, with makeup on."
And what I like though is the show is it's we won't go over the same ground we've talked about, but one of the funny things in the show is the detective work when you actually see it happening on screen. And the detective work in this is they walk into a club and they go, "Hey, are you Crispin X?" And they go, "Nope." They go, "Huh." They walk over to someone else. "Hey, you Crispin X?" They go, "No." They go, "Huh." That's their strategy. They just gonna walk up to every single person they see and go, Are you Crispin?" Anyways, I was like, well done, guys.
Jordan, I'm gonna stop you right there.
Am I
Since
wrong?
When are we going to not go over territory we've gone over a million times before?
That's true. That's true. Sorry. Well, I figured,
as long as you say you're not going to do it and then do it, it makes up for it.
That's just true. That's true.
I like when they went to this party, and it may be on screen for 2 seconds. There's an establishing shot of where this party is happening, which is in good old Little Blade Runner town again.
Yeah. A lot of glow sticks.
But did you catch... I'm starting to watch these establishing shots because I'm trying to watch for the wall now. And in this, you could see the wall kind of running through.
Oh, could you really?
Yeah. And behind the wall is interesting to me because behind the wall is a bunch of like skyscrapers without power, like looking a little bit decrepit. The wall seems to cut straight through the city. And I'm not sure if maybe the whole world's a city or if maybe the wall is just in one part of this city.
Again, I think it's probably not going to be answered by the last episode.
I'm more and more curious about this wall as we go on.
And I'm actually too. I kind of poo-pooed it when you first brought it up, and I regret that. It's the only thing I regret in my life is that I poo-pooed your excitement for the wall.
Your only regret.
That's it.
But getting back to this party, we kind of get the viewers get a bit of a bait and switch as we sort of see a party that looks kind of like the rave in Matrix Reloaded.
Oh yeah, that was terrible too.
But what we come to realize very quickly is it's happening in VR, and they're all just like sitting around on couches, like wearing little VR goggles, and there's no real party. It's just like,
which was fine. It was kind of I don't know. I don't know if it was supposed to be like it was funny or if it was supposed to be a slam on a culture. I don't know. But here's the weird thing: if they're all just going to be in VR, why do they even bother going to the same warehouse? Why don't they all just stay at home?
A good question. Just to hang out.
I guess, but to hang out, they're all just putting on headsets and sitting in a room. They're not even looking at each other. Anyways, it doesn't matter.
Makes you so upset.
It's just everything of this episode. It was just like, it irritated me.
I'm surprised to hear it irritated that much because we do finally get to meet Crispin X. And what's Crispin X's real name?
Oh, I don't know if I did get his real name. I know he had a good head of hair.
I can't believe you missed this because they will do it throughout the episode because he basically joins the team to do all the hacking for them for the rest of the episode.
Yeah, what do they call him? I know the other person's name, but what do they call him? What's his real name?
His name is Nico.
Oh, you're right.
And they
oh
keep
my
calling,
gosh.
They're like, Nico, hack the system for us. Nico, open that door.
I didn't even think about it. That's crazy.
That is so close to Nika, the hacker from Tech War.
Yeah.
That I legitimately questioned whether this was a coincidence because they're treating him in the exact same fashion she used to work on the show for the entire episode. She's like, anytime they need anything, they're calling him and he's hacking something. And they're like, Nico, can you get this open for us? Nico, where are you? And I'm like, could this be more than a coincidence? Could this be a reference?
Should we check? Do you think another Shatner wrote this episode?
Oh, I could only hope.
There's no way.
I can't believe you didn't notice. I can't believe you didn't notice that immediately. Like, I was sitting there, my mind was blown.
I think what I'm learning is I might have a learning disability.
I mean, he even kind of looks like Nika.
Yeah, I don't know if I agree with that, but anyways, he does. What I noticed was to show that he's cool because he's a hacker. He sort of sits with his knees up and he puts his keyboard on his knees, even though he could easily just put it on a desk.
It was time for a desk.
He's the kind of guy like walks into a room and spins the chair around and sits on it backwards, you know?
Oh, cool teacher.
Yeah, he's like, let me tell you kids about something. You know, he was one of those guys.
Anyway, they basically find out from Nico that he didn't hack the smart house, but he did hack the power grid. He's a bit of a mercenary. He was hired by Disrupt to do that and sort of like send out a message. But he doubts Disrupt would have even done the murders because he really does think they're a good organization trying to do good work. So he kind of offers to help them out in some ways because as they're interviewing him, the lawyer from Centurion is murdered by his smart house too. The fire suppression system went off and sucked all the oxygen out of his house.
Yeah, that's a bad way to go.
Rough way to go.
A pretty good idea for a system, though, to stop a fire.
Yeah, I mean, this smart house doesn't seem that bad.
Yeah, if you're not stuck in it, I mean, you're gonna die in the fire anyway. So, yeah. And what I'm saying is, I'm on the security system side.
You'd live in that house.
Yeah, why not?
Hollow Butler.
I'm telling you, I didn't like him from the moment I saw him.
He's not even the bad guy.
I know. You know what? It's because he reminded me of someone. That's why.
Who do you remind you of?
I'm not gonna say it's someone with a similar name, but he just reminded me of this guy I worked with. And as soon as he came up, I was like, oh, I don't like him.
Bad memories.
Yeah, bad memories, yeah. But the important part here is that it's clearly not a one-off, this murder, and it seems like different people working for the Centurion security system are now getting picked off because it's two.
And they both have received the same death threat with a photo of Aaron that seems to be a candid shot that no one else has access to.
What did you think of that little tidbit? It's this weird photo that no one has access to.
I mean, I think it works. The idea of being like a private, it's not something that was publicly available, so it narrows the suspect field down from Disrupt, which seemed to be just like a general hacktivist who wouldn't have known him personally.
Right. I'm just saying, the reveal that we're going to find out very shortly, don't you think, let's say, Luke, I was trying to avenge your death, and I start murdering people, and so I go, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to send them a photo, and the only photo I have is a photo of me and you that I crop me out. Don't you think that's just asking for trouble?
I mean, maybe this Emily wants trouble.
Yeah, maybe. So can we talk about Emily now?
Yeah, basically Nico hacks into Aaron's old computer and basically figures out there's a woman named Emily who's trying to avenge Aaron's death. And what do we know about Emily?
She's a hacker.
Good.
And she's in the other half of that photo.
Great.
And I don't know, what else do we know about her?
She's an old classmate of Aaron's. She was expelled from school for assaulting a student. Aaron was kind of befriended her after that, and after he died, he'd been jumping fences to get to her house to see her, but after he died, her family moved her to Arizona, and since then she's kind of become a missing person, so no one quite knows what's happened to her.
She's been hacking to death.
She's been hacking to death.
Yeah.
She's a bit of a super genius, so Nico kind of comes on board. They sort of threaten him by sending him to the cubes and offer him immunity if he'll lend a hand. But he seemed pretty game to lend a hand. It was testing his skills against a real good hacker.
Yeah, they didn't have to push too much. They're like, you might have to help us. He's like, okay.
He's a real Nika.
Yeah, he is. That Nico's a real Nika.
He essentially follows this Emily's trail through the networks and kind of tracks down the idea that, which is funny that they didn't put this together themselves, that she's probably going after the Centurion CEO for the death of Aaron. Yeah. The next most obvious suspect.
Mm-hmm. Well, their detective work would have literally been walking into like, I don't know, a school and be like, are you the murderer? No? What about you? Are you the murderer? No? What about you?
Listen, good old-fashioned police work, just asking people if they killed anyone.
Well, it's got to have worked at some point because they keep doing it.
In the future, it's real hard to lie for some reason.
Yeah.
It just doesn't come up yet in an episode.
That's episode 14.
The problem for this CEO, though, is the company Centurion has recently created new SAMs, and they're Android SAMs, so they have like actual physical bots. And so what Emily's done is she's hacked into these bots and basically sent a Terminator army after this woman.
Yeah. Although, how many actually were there? I think they mentioned there was several, but at first I thought it was just one that was kind of going around, but there was at least 4 or 5, right?
Yeah, it seemed to be a minimum of 3, I think.
The CEO of the company, we find out she does start getting like attacked right now. Like she's trying to take the elevator, but it doesn't work anymore. And what you have is 2 hackers fighting on the system. You have Emily, who's trying to kill her with the robot, and you have Nico, who's trying to stop the attack.
Kenix and Dorian rush in, and Dorian essentially tracks Emily down. She's in the building. She's in their server room hacking directly, and she's turned on the fire suppression system to suck the oxygen out, and he basically He has to go in there. I think he fights a robot, and then he has to talk her out of killing herself, basically.
Every episode he has to fight a robot. Doesn't it seem like that?
He does fist fight a robot almost, like, the last 3 episodes for sure.
Like, he's just like, another robot I gotta fight?
Kennex, meanwhile, he gets to go around shooting the rogue Sambots, and it's kind of fun because Nico hacks their hollow projection system and, like, shoots a whole bunch of Kennexes everywhere so the Sam robots don't know what they're shooting at.
Yeah, I thought that looked pretty cool, actually. What you get is that he, like, he's pointing the gun, and suddenly there's, like, 10 of him pointing the gun. So it's that classic sort of, like, you're in a fun house, and you're shooting all the mirrors because you don't know who the real person is.
He basically takes down all these Sambots. Dorian talks down Emily, and they both kind of save the day and arrest Emily. The CEO is saved. There's this little scene at the end, and I thought you would enjoy this, but they go to talk to Aaron's mom, and Aaron's mom's quite sad because her son didn't have a lot of friends, or any friends, she thinks. And they're like, no, your son was greatly loved just with his internet friends. And then they sort of show one of those collages, like it's Aaron's photo, but it's made up of a collage of a million other photos. And they start pulling up the littler photos, and it just looked like people from the production office holding up a sign, like all the people were too old to have been his friends, and they looked like, I'm the accountant on this show and I have to hold a sign for the art department.
It just it's a funny thing. They went for this emotional beat, clearly, but I don't think, I didn't care. I don't know about yourself or other viewers. I don't think anyone was that worried that this guy who died, who we never met, didn't have any friends. I don't care. I didn't care at all. And they were like, oh no, let's make sure to add this emotional beat that his mom knew he had friends. I don't care if he had friends. Did you care?
It's like these other ones they're doing. They don't land it at all. There's no seeding. There's no reason to care about it. And yeah, it doesn't work.
It just made me laugh. My note was, wait, the photo is a composite of other photos? Ha 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 ha. How stupid. That was my note.
It was only like 20 seconds long, the scene. Like it could have easily been exercised.
Right. Well, no, but they like that. They like those scenes. So I don't know. It just you're right. It just they didn't seed it, so it just didn't land.
One thing they could have done, and I'm not sure if they're doing it more in these 2 episodes or if they've always been doing it, I just haven't been clocking it. But there are quite a few, I felt, establishing shots of the world they were doing in these episodes that were kind of cool.
Yeah.
Like in this episode, there's a cutaway to a kid standing over a koi pond, and the koi pond is full of like glowing, flashing neon koi.
Is this the episode 2 where they have a big drone shot where there's an actual drone flying through and then comes in closer?
Yeah, I think that's in this one, or maybe it's the next one. One of them there's just like a wide shot of the city that just looks like the city, but in the top right-hand corner is just this like blue orb just hanging there for no reason.
Right.
And I'm just like, what's up with that orb? I'm not sure if maybe they peppered a few more in these episodes, or I don't remember there being this many of these establishing shots before.
No, there's been a few, but they've actually, surprisingly, they don't do a lot of that. I'm assuming it's a budgetary thing. They're mostly just in their office and stuff. But yeah, I noticed it too. There were a lot of, for whatever reason, there were a lot of establishing shots of cities and surroundings.
And like little tech stuff happening in them. Mm-hmm. Anyway, let's move on to the next episode.
Beholder.
Yes, here's the IMDb summary for episode 12, Beholder.
Dorian, here's the guy we're looking for.
This face is a composite of the specific features of the victims. There are 10 parts to this facial construction. These are the facial features he wants. There have only been 9 victims so far.
Means there's still one out there. Can you extrapolate who the next victim's gonna be?
According to facial rec, this looks like the next victim. Looks like he selected the cheekbone structure.
When a chrome appears to have died young, Valerie recognizes it as a murder and begins an investigation. Kennex and Dorian realize that the murderer is a serial killer who is using outlawed nanobot plastic surgery to become beautiful. That was courtesy of Rebel Lynn 2.
I like this episode a lot better, even though I don't know if it's actually a better episode, but it does have one remarkably stupid thing that I loved so much, even though it's so stupid, and I'll mention it when we get to it. It's a real turn in the episode.
All right, I can't wait to find out.
I know. See, look, isn't that great how I'm seeding it? And that's how you do it, Almost Human writers.
Yeah, this is exactly like how the mom came in and said her son had no friends, and then 40 minutes later she got to see pictures.
That's as much effort as they did. Hey, he didn't have any friends, and later on, guess what? He did have friends. Like, nice and tidy, that one.
The crime of the week this week is we start off with a Chrome, one of these genetic elites who've been, modified to be perfect. He gets home from work, he takes off his pants, and he plays a little augmented reality golf.
I did like that he wore no pants the whole scene.
This is, listener, Jordan's favorite thing is not wearing pants.
Well, I don't want to say it was my favorite thing, but getting home and taking your pants off is pretty good.
That's what I mean. As soon as I saw this guy without his pants on at home after work, I'm like, Jordan's going to be on board with this right away.
I was, yeah. And I actually thought the golf thing looked really cool. I actually had lots of questions. And maybe you'll be able to answer this, Luke, being an expert on VR technology. When he's golfing, he pulls up a screen that's all around him. Is he the only one seeing the screen? Or do you think if you were looking through the window, you would be like, is there a golf course up there?
Oh, good question. I wonder. Maybe it's on the windows projecting it, so maybe if you looked, you would see kind of the back of it, like little hollow projection?
Yeah, because and then my second point to that being, he might want to put some pants on because he's right around the windows.
Oh, he doesn't care.
He doesn't care. But also, a third point, on because I want to keep talking about this scene as long as possible, this would be actually a great technology for athletes.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's probably on the way.
I'm sure they have something very similar that professional athletes practice with, but I was like, this is good. I thought that was not only a well executed technology, a technology that makes sense that they'd have in the future.
The building I work in has a golf simulator. I've just never used it.
Is that right?
Yeah.
How come we don't? Why don't we go do some golf simulation? You're a big golf fan, aren't you?
Hey, I'd go to a golf simulator any day.
You're a real Jack Nicklaus, and I'm a real
Vijay Singh.
Who?
Vijay Singh?
That's right.
That's the first golfer that came into my mind.
Oh, and Tiger Woods. I forgot about him.
Oh, good old disgraced Tiger Woods.
Yeah, is he still disgraced? I thought everyone forgave him.
Hard to
Not
say.
so much? Anyway.
But this Chrome who's golfing in his underwear is quickly assaulted by this leper-looking Quasimodo man.
Oh, see, I wrote Darkman. I said, oh no, Darkman just electrocuted him. Didn't he look just like Liam Neeson in Darkman?
He did look like Liam Neeson in Darkman. His face is kind of covered in rags or like bandages or something. And he kind of zaps him with a taser and then like jams a needle into the back of his neck. And all I wrote down was he's stealing his essence because he pulls out like a vial of like glowing white goo out of his brain.
I thought this was going to be like a Harsh Realm situation. Remember when, what's his face? Old Santiago stole that guy's face?
Oh, yeah.
That's what I thought was going to happen. I thought he's going to like fully just take someone's face and then take their identity. But that's not really what happens here.
That's not too far off, though. It's along the same path. Essentially, the death initially is ruled a heart attack, but this is where Detective Stahl comes in. As a Chrome, she's pretty suspicious because she knows they don't have heart defects. They're genetically programmed to be perfect. And they're also, and did you catch this? There seems to be some sort of implication that there's some sort of like Chrome High Council, because she sort of says like, they reached out to me to look into this because they know I'm a Chrome and they know this is not how people die. Like, she seems to imply there's some sort of like Illuminati Chromes that like want her to get to the bottom of this,
or at least some sort of lobby group or organization. Yeah, they sort of just skirt over it, but yes, they imply that there is some sort of group of Chromes that sort of stick together. Yeah,
and so she goes and she puts John Kennicks and Dorian on the case.
Did you hear though the guy who got killed, Mr. VR Golf? Did you hear that he had been in the Olympics?
Oh right, I forgot about that.
And I wrote it down. It was the Detroit Olympics of 2036.
Oh, now see, that's some good detail. Attention to detail, yeah. Jordan.
Yeah. So, hey, I guess we just need to wait a few years to see if that prediction is true.
I think I read a comment online somewhere where someone was just like making fun of the idea that Detroit would ever have the Olympics.
Well, I mean, they have lots of vacant space now.
Just build arenas everywhere.
Well, why not?
At the crime scene, Dorian kind of spots the needle mark in the back of this guy's neck, and he does his mobile forensic unit thing that we haven't seen since the first episode.
Yeah, I wrote it down. It's the first time we've seen it since, like, remember we mentioned it, like, oh, he's gonna be doing that all the time, but this is the only time he's done it since we first saw it.
He basically jams the needle into the same hole the needle went into and sucks some blood out and then jams it into his own neck, and he's basically like, oh, there's 7 kinds of DNA in this guy, and they basically put together that 7 other people have been murdered with the same weapon, and there seems to be some sort of serial killer on the loose.
Was the point that they found, because they said there was 7 different people's DNA found. So the implication is that he's used the same tool and their DNA is still on it. Like, he's not washing it, is basically what it is.
Exactly.
Right, okay.
And the only link they can find between the victims is helpfully categorized by Captain Maldonado when she says what, Jordan?
Okay. So this is what I mentioned earlier. This was so stupid, it was hilarious. So what she says, so they've got their big screen, they're talking, and they see all the, the rotating heads of all the victims, and they're like, oh, what it could be. And she says, I see one pattern. They're all very attractive.
Right.
And I would have laughed my ass off if I was in that room and I was one of those detectives, because it's the dumb. Who would ever notice that? Because one, it's not like they were all models. They all just look like normal people. So there wasn't anything in the images of people that were distinctly super attractive, and I just no one would ever make that connection. It's not like they went, you know what? They all have blonde hair and blue eyes, or they're all a size 13. Like that's not. It's being attractive is not enough of a distinguishing feature that you can just notice that by looking at a wall. Did you not think that was stupid?
I thought it was very funny, especially in the world of Almost Human, where every actor on the show is pretty.
That's what I mean. It's like I'm like, they weren't ugly, but they weren't. It wasn't like they were all supermodels, and you're like, okay, that does make sense. Or they actually were all models. It's just like, these people are all attractive. That must be the connection. It's like, what a lazy detective.
It's how we get into the case of the beauty killer.
But anyways, yeah, she's right. She threw a real Hail Mary, and she was right.
I do like that. That's what they call the serial killer for the rest of the episode, the beauty killer.
Yeah. Well, you can't win them all. I like Darkman. I just refer to him as Darkman the whole time.
I kept calling him BK.
BK?
Beauty killer.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Basically, what we find out is that the killer is this guy, Eric Latham. He took part in an experimental plastic surgery. Basically, the idea was that you'd inject nanobots into a person, and it would take, like, I guess, a scan, or like some sort of donor person would give you an idea of what their like awesome nose looked like. And then the nanobots would come out, and you'd inject that into the person who wanted to have that nose, and the nanobots would go ahead and just like rearrange the nose for you.
But what's the major problem with this surgery?
Well, there's usually 2 major problems. One, it gives the donors a heart attack.
Yeah, so that's not good.
Not good. And the people who are receiving the nanobots become horribly disfigured.
I know, that was weird. I was like, why would they even keep doing it after the first time? And they showed pictures, and the people look terrible.
It was quite a disaster, this whole experiment, I think. I guess that's why it's outlawed.
Like, if I looked at all the pictures of all the people that had the nanotechnology, I would have said, you know what? I see one pattern. They're all hideous.
And now our disfigured beauty killer, Eric, he's got one of these nanobot needles, which they call an actuator.
That's right, yeah.
And he's basically gone off, and he's trying to get his perfect face. So he's killing people and using this actuator to kind of like, I guess, take parts of their face, but it not really that. Like, he basically, I guess, the nanobots scan their face, kill the person by this heart attack, and then he's able to go see one of these disgraced doctors who ran this trial originally, and he's basically helping this guy get his perfect face.
I just, as a little side note, I just came up with a better name they should have had for him.
What's that?
The Vain Villain.
Oh, the Vain Villain.
Isn't that good?
That's pretty good, actually.
You know, it's funny because I just looked at my note. I wrote, this villain is vain.
You're right on the cusp.
I was right there.
But essentially, that's what's been happening. People are getting killed. He's stealing their faces. We'll see him do it with one person, and it's kind of I'll just get into it very quickly here. It's a woman who runs a lemonade stand.
Yeah, wasn't it? But aren't they called like nitro drinks? What are they called?
I think they were called nitro lemonades.
Yeah, and they're just like they're lemonades with dry ice. You gotta pay extra for that.
I was like, what a future.
I know. I love. You know what though? I wish this show did more stuff like that. I love it. I was like, yeah, sure. Dry ice lemonade. Why not?
This is one of the classic things that happens on Almost Human. Like, there's always these practically supervillain level crimes happening. Like, when he goes after her, he wants her eyes, basically. So he kills her, and then he goes and sees this doctor, and basically they inject the nanobots into him, and all we see is his eyes change color.
Yeah.
It seems like such an extreme length. There must be a way. I mean, contacts, number one.
Well, what I like is he kills the woman, and he goes to what looks like, we should say, a very painful experiment. He has to sit in this like Game of Thrones-esque sort of chair with all these spikes and stuff and get strapped down and being injected and all this stuff so that he can get this technology. And he changes his eye color. Meanwhile, he's got these huge, hideous wounds on his face. I was like, maybe take care of those first before you worry about your eyeballs.
It was very funny. I'm like, such a minor change for all this death.
I know.
But I guess that's the point of the vain villain.
I know, that's classic vain villain.
Detective Stahl, she's sort of helping on this case because she was, put in charge by the Chromes, I guess. And she heads off to this elite Chrome club to kind of try to get surveillance footage of the murder victim. They figure he must have been stalked by this beauty killer. So if she can pull some footage from this club, she can figure it out. And, she hates Chromes. They don't seem to like her very much, and they don't want to really give up this surveillance footage. But she kind of ends up having a meet cute with the owner of this club.
Yeah, and I don't know if it's just the character, but he's like the stiffest person ever. And so you have two not terribly demonstrative actors doing this scene where they're supposed to be like, acting cute and flirty. And it's like watching two like robots just bump into each other.
I mean, it does seem to be something to do with the Chromes and how they sort of select them. They do seem to always be very beautiful, but very like not with a lot of emotion in their faces.
Yeah, I think you're giving more credit to it than maybe the actors deserve.
I did like how he won her over though by telling her about his Chrome brother who is a chainsaw sculptor.
That's right. Yeah.
Sort of to show that he respects Chromes who don't want to like do what they're supposed to.
Also, that girl at the door was not very nice, huh?
Well, she's a classic Chrome.
Classic Chrome.
She does get the footage, and what we kind of see in this footage is the beauty killer was clearly stalking the Chrome victim. They try to run facial recognition on him, but it keeps bouncing back with like one of the 7 other dead victims, which is when they start piecing together maybe his face is made up of other people's faces.
Mm-hmm. But is this where we get to street fighting by the burning garbage cans?
Not quite yet. Because Rudy has been put in charge of finding out what happened to the 7 other victims of the beauty killer.
Oh, right. And this is actually pretty cool.
And he's basically been sent what they call virtue topsies.
Yeah, is that what they called them?
Yeah. They're essentially just like holograms of the bodies, I guess. But like they're, I guess, recreations of the autopsies.
Actually, again, this was a pretty good technology. I like the idea of a cadaver or a victim being scanned so that they can continue to seemingly work on a body even if it's deteriorating.
Which is good. I actually thought, because they said something about Rudy looking into the bodies, I thought they were going to send actual bodies to Rudy. I'm like, I don't think his job is also doing autopsies.
Yeah. No, I thought that was pretty good. So basically, he's got this like what looks like a replication of a person, but it's all blue. So it's like their shape. So he can still see like their wounds and, I guess, seemingly anything that was wrong with them, he can still see.
And he sees they were all killed with the same like needle device and nanobots were in their system. So they're all related. But there's also a fun bit when Dorian and Kennex arrive. Rudy's very mad at them.
Oh yeah, this is your classic. Let's make sure Rudy's kind of a silly man. He's irritated at them, and they're like, "What's wrong with it?" And what he's irritated is that he's found out that only beautiful people are being murdered, and he's upset because he's assuming he's next on the list, or he's going to be killed because he's also a beautiful person. Wow.
Why didn't they warn him? He says he used to be a child model.
Yeah,
it was kind of cute.
Was it? I didn't think so. It just felt like honestly, it feels like they're bullying at this point. That's what it feels like to me.
Well, fair enough. I mean, since we like to go over Rudy so much, I made a little side note here because obviously we know they love to have a lot of sex jokes about him but if over the course of these 2 episodes, there doesn't seem to be any consistency. Because usually it seems like he wants to get a lady, or he has trouble with ladies, or those kind of things, or maybe that he hires sex bots. Mm-hmm. But at one point, Dorian in one of these episodes starts talking about how there's a lot of half-dressed women always over.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. Well, I mean, I assume the idea was they were prostitutes.
But it's not clear. It seems like sometimes he's a ladies' man, sometimes he's like never seen a lady before. Sometimes he maybe hires like professional sex workers. Like there's no consistency to like the joke they want to make. It's just whatever they want to make in the moment.
The idea is, can we make fun of him? That's basically all it is.
Poor Rudy. He doesn't deserve it.
Poor Rudy. I know. I feel bad for Rudy.
Anyway, we'll move on. I think this is what you're talking about here regarding Harsh Realm is Kenix knows a guy who's a black market sort of seller who could be a bit of an informant to tell him where this beauty killer might have got this actuator he's using to stab people. So they go off to this like junkyard where there's burning barrels and like robot fights happening.
Don't you love in dystopian futures where there's always a burning barrel?
I mean, it looked like they went into Harsh Realm.
It did, yeah.
It looked exactly like it. And it's funny, Dorian asks, like, who's your informant? And Kenix is like, I'll know him when I see him. And he starts talking to this woman who's watching the robot fights. And then the woman says she doesn't know where this DiCarlo, this black market guy is. And then Kenix, like, cold cocks this woman.
Yeah, and she falls down. And we've never seen this technology before, but the woman falls down, and suddenly her back opens up in a very Men in Black-esque sort of way.
That is exactly what I thought, too. I'm like, this is like a Men in Black movie.
Yeah, so if you've seen a Men in Black movie, you know exactly what this looks like. And it's like, instead of an alien getting out, out comes little Tony Cox.
Yeah, little person actor Tony Cox of Bad Santa climbs out, and he's good. I like him as an actor, actually, so I was happy to see him for 2 seconds.
You know what? He was a good character for the scene they needed him, and he had fun little goggles.
And this, I have to say, might be the most insane sequence Almost Human has ever done. Like, when this woman's back opens up and someone crawls out of it, I'm like, what's going on right now?
It was a weird technology that I don't know if it jives with the technology we've seen in this show before, because everything seems very practical, and this, I don't know what the practical thing would be other than disguising yourself, but whatever, it was fun looking.
Yeah, he's got this cool, he calls it an exosuit.
Yeah.
Anyway, the black market guy doesn't know where he got an actuator from, but he does say, he's like, I do know there's this black market doctor who can change your face if you get into trouble. Why don't you go see him?
They go to find that doctor. And is this where he injects himself and he becomes Bane?
Yeah, he shoots himself up with some synthetic adrenaline when he sees Kenix and Dorian are there.
Yeah, and so he can have a, your classic, he gets into a fist fight with him.
But it's short-lived because he immediately dies of a heart attack from the adrenaline.
Yeah, it wasn't worth it.
It was a poorly thought out plan. Kenix and Dorian are able to pull up his files, and they find the beauty killer Eric, kind of what his face wants to be and kind of all the people he's killed. And they even find, like, his final victim, the last person he's going to get so he can get this guy's beautiful cheeks.
It's unfortunate for him that he's so organized that he's already planned it all out, because then it's, he's really leaving a trail for the cops.
It's true. The cops put out a protective detail on his final victim, and of course, the BK killer is sort of watching him anyway, and he notices the cops are there, so he kind of gives up. What I thought was interesting here is they have to figure out where he's going to go next, and they start talking about how could he have picked these victims, like what's the connection. And as they're looking at these 3D spinning photos, you were talking about this in a previous episode. Like, why do these 3D spinning photos exist?
And what they explain is that they're sort of an update on your regular photo at like the DMV. So for people's ID, they're now doing 3D scans, and it's an update that people are doing. Yeah.
The beauty killer works at the DMV, so he's able to look at people's faces in the DMV database. And that's why all of these 360 shots of heads exist. I never thought anyone would ever answer that question for you. I just was like, it's just part of the world. But the fact that they went to such detail, it was as if they were like telling you from last episode to shut up.
That's right. Oh, this guy's whining about stuff. All right, this is why. He works at the DMV.
Are you happy now, Jordan?
Yeah, exactly. But let me ask you something. And I know this is going to sound, I hope this doesn't come off the wrong way, but were you kind of surprised that he was choosing male and female victims to create his perfect face?
Melanie brought the same thing up. And honestly, I don't know if it matters. Like, I feel like maybe he wanted a bit of an androgynous look. He liked a few pieces.
Well, I mean, the woman he kills, he takes her eyes. Okay, well, eyes are eyes, but like, assuming he's going to go, you know what? I like her perky little nose, and he's going to get like a lady nose and stuff. Which again, yeah, maybe he's going for sort of an androgynous look or whatever it may be. But I was like, oh, that's kind of curious. I would assume he would go for just people of his own gender. But
well, do you want to quickly talk about? I mean, obviously this is a real actor who's his real face. Actually, he's on Dirk Gently, and I actually think he's one of the best characters on Dirk Gently. This actor, but not exactly traditionally beautiful.
No, and he's not ugly. I mean, again, no one in this show is ugly. But yeah, what would you describe him as? Striking?
He's a bit striking. He tends to play characters who are a little bit like down and dirty or like grungy. So he's got a very angular face and usually scruffy. It just, if you're going to do an episode where like the character wants to be like, you would just imagine he'd be more of a traditional leading man type of like a Clooney or something. Like,
Yeah, I thought the same thing.
anyway, I was thinking about it after it. I'm like, it was kind of a weird choice in that like, it's not like you looked at that man and were immediately like, wow, great choice on this face.
But you know who would have noticed it was Maldonado.
They track him down via his DMV kind of, I don't know, whatever, employee registry, something like that, right?
Yeah, it's one of those things where they're like, don't worry about it. He's in the DMV. We found, even though he hasn't worked there in like a year, they're like, we know where he is.
Yeah, he's like on disability or something from this disfiguring accident he had. And when they raid his house, they find basically chat logs. There's a woman he's been chatting with for several months, like probably predating these murders. Mm-hmm. In these chats, he's been using his real name, but he's been using his dream face. And he seems to be trying to arrange a meeting now that his face is nearly there. He's hoping, I guess, to finally meet the love of his life now that he has the face he wants.
And I like that it's almost like the writers knew they were running out of time in this episode, because they were like, how are we going to find this woman? And John just looks up at the window and he's like, oh, that's her right there.
Yeah, she's in the building next door, and John clocks her immediately.
Yeah, and he's just like, does she have brown hair? And they're like, yeah. He's like, I think I know who she is. And they're like, yeah, all right, let's just go with it. And it is her.
It's great because we cut away to her apartment, and she's getting some groceries delivered. And the grocery man, she taps for the groceries and leaves them. And I watch the grocery man turns around and walks to the door and just leaves it wide open.
Oh, does he?
It was a little awkwardly staged. I'm like, oh, you didn't close that door. She's not even there anymore. But it's because like the next moment, Eric, the beauty killer, is in her apartment, kind of surprising her by arriving and being like, hello, it's me. I came early to finally meet you.
Was that not the creepiest way of doing that, though? Just showing up in her apartment?
It certainly was handled in a very creepy way. But, he's still got these bandages on his cheeks because he hasn't finished, like, fixing his cheeks. And he's very embarrassed to meet her while he's still not perfect. But what's the big twist, Jordan?
Well, what we find out, this is essentially a Twilight Zone episode because she's blind. So he comes to meet her and she's like, I've got something to tell you. I'm blind. And he's like, oh, no, I've been doing plastic surgery all this time.
Well, and murdering people.
And murdering people. That's true. I forgot about the murders.
It's a real gift of the Magi.
Yeah.
I do like, though, there's a version of this that's on, like, CSI where he's just, like, chopping people's faces off and putting them on his face.
Oh, really?
No, that would be an episode of CSI where he's just like...
Oh, right. Fair enough.
He's got, like, loose skin on his face, and he shows up, and she doesn't react. She's like, oh, I'm blind. He's like, oh, good, because I've got gross flesh on my face.
But anyways, I actually thought the scene worked out pretty well. I thought the actor did a good job of this sort of the weight of the realization of all the things he's sacrificed in his life and all the people he's murdered and damaged for this, essentially for nothing.
Right.
Because Luke, as you know, if you're dating a blind person, you could be as ugly as possible.
As possible?
As possible. Like, you should make yourself uglier.
You should work at it.
Yeah, work at it. Like, make yourself as bad as you can.
It is, I mean, it's okay. It's a very silly twist to the end where he shows up and is like, I killed all these people so I'd look beautiful. Well, I'm blind. I don't know.
It just reminded me of, like, a real, like, classic Twilight Zone episode. So for that reason, I enjoyed it.
Did he never look her up in the DMV database?
I guess not. Yeah, I guess it's true. All he had to do was look her up and it would have seen. He's like, oh, she's blind. It's just, oh, you know what? Maybe she wasn't in there because she's not going to have a driver's license.
No, good point.
Figure that out.
Figure that one out. Anyway, at this point, the cops rush into her apartment, try to arrest the beauty killer. He laments never having found true love and then throws himself off the roof of the building. Yeah,
that was a quick end. He just kills himself.
Yeah, it wraps itself up right quick.
Yeah, so, and then it's like, so that's done. But then in, I guess Almost Human has to do it. What's the next scene? Their little emotional scene that no one cares about.
Yeah, more in the continuing saga of the love story between Kennex and Stahl.
Yeah, so John's basically like realized somehow this episode, maybe you caught it more than I did. Somehow this murderer's pining for this blonde woman has really shown John what's important in life. And so he's decided, like, you know what, I'm going to go ask her out finally.
Yeah, I like he asks her out to get a drink at Leo's, his favorite bar.
Well, he wants to still be comfortable.
And she says, oh, I love that bar. I'm there all the time, too.
Yeah, like, I know they said that, and I was like, so Wouldn't you guys see each other all the time then?
Never bumped into each other.
Yeah. Well, you know what the twist is going to be? Stahl's blind.
Well, the real twist is, unfortunately for Kenix, she's already going on a date with that handsome Chrome from the nightclub.
Yeah, but don't worry, they leave a little something for the audience because he's just like, what? You? Me? And then she goes off with the guy and John sort of sits there, like, I blew it. I'm such a loser. And then what he doesn't see is in the background, while she's leaving, she turns around and looks at him one more time.
It's true.
Leaving the audience to realize she really does love him. I'm like, so why don't she just go on a date with him then?
I like that after that we cut to a montage of people in love walking down the street and then a shot of Kenix just brooding.
On a bench by himself. It was very weird.
And then show over. I'm like, whoa, what?
I know. Yeah, this episode was kind of cheesy and stupid, but I liked it anyway.
All right. Well, you want to rate these things?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right. What do you think of Disrupt? I know you hated it, so I'm curious to see what you say.
I'm gonna give it a 3 to 10. I just didn't think anything worked in this episode, and it was boring. I didn't care, and they wouldn't stop making stupid sex jokes. So 3 to 10.
3 out of 10. Eh? Wow. I actually am gonna give this a 7.
Oh, come on.
I think it is holding true to what it's kind of okay at. I'm not going to say I loved all the stuff around Detective Paul, but I was able to shut it out, so it was fun. I think the hacking stuff was okay. I enjoyed it. I thought it was a fun crime of the week that kind of worked for me.
I think I'm also done with hacking. I don't think I want to see any more hacking on TV.
All right. Well, you
I'm just
picked
saying.
a bad podcast to be on.
That's true.
All right, what about Beholder?
I'm going to give this one a 7 out of 10. And I think 1 point for Maldonado going, I see one pattern. They're all very attractive. That's so dumb, I'm giving it a point on its own. So that's 7 out of 10.
Fair enough. I mean, that is very silly. The big twist that she was blind all along is very silly. But I still think this is a 7. Like, this is the show at, like, firing on as many cylinders as it's capable of firing on.
I agree.
Well, Jordan, I can't believe there's only one episode left.
I know, episode 13.
We'll have to see how it all wraps up. What's on the other side of that wall? Where all these memories went into Dorian? What happened to Kenix's girlfriend?
We don't know what happened to John Larroquette, and more importantly, the big mystery that they set up at the beginning of the show is what happened to John's girlfriend. She's just like, don't worry about that.
No, don't worry, we forgot about her too, so we'll move on. No, I guess we'll find out all these mysteries and more in the next episode.
It'll just be someone sitting in a chair with a notepad, just explaining, like, oh yeah, the girlfriend, she's a robot. John Larroquette, has a family over the wall. It'll just be someone reading out all the answers.
I wouldn't object.
And then at the very end, Stahl and Kenix will just like look at each other.
Your favorite part.
Yeah, my favorite part, and that'll be the series.
All right. In the meantime, if you want to get a hold of us to talk to us Almost Human, you can email us at continuumdrag@gmail.com. You can follow us on Instagram and Twitter at continuumdrag, where we're always posting stuff from these TV shows.
And you can point out things like our friend did there about how we didn't realize that John and Dorian is Jorian.
Oh yeah, correct us when we missed some of that stuff. That was great. I can't believe we missed that. That's crazy.
It's a little embarrassing.
I mean, we have so much to think about.
That's true. Yeah, it's true. These are so action-packed.
All right, listener. Well, thanks for joining us. And Jordan, until next time, I'll see you later.
Yeah, I'll see you then.
Continuum Drag is recorded at Astrolab Studios in Toronto, Ontario. Theme music by James Ruxedler. Produced by Jordan Delick and Luke Black. Special thanks to Adam Wheatner, Jeff Hanley, and Dwayne Wright.